Hello everyone, this is Dr. Achal and I welcome you all in our subject module of services marketing. Hope you all are doing good. So, let's start the concept of the new services development process. In our previous discussion, we have dealt with this particular concept and we have discussed one of the steps under the concept of development of the new services, and that was being talked of as the generation of the ideas. Now, in our present discussion, we will be dealing with the further steps that are very much being prominent enough to develop and to craft the new services in this competitive scenario. So, we have already talked of that when a product is launched in the market area, a product can be understood in any of the sense. A product is something that has a capability for acquisition, that has a capability of use, has a capability of satisfying the needs and the wants of the target customers. So, it encompasses not only the physical commodities, but also it is being associated in the sense of the intangibility benefits, the services, the ideas, the deeds and the associations, the organization, the information, the entities, the person who are delivering out these services. So, all these entities, they in turn constitute towards having out a capability, and they are coming under the defining out the concept of the goods. Now, we are limiting our discussion towards the services which are basically intangible in sense. So, all the deeds, associations and the efforts that are being made by the marketers or the service providers to make the target audience satisfied and delighted, they all are being constituted to define the concept of the services. So, let us start. We have already said that the concept of the generation of the ideas, it is in a very first step and it is coming as in a very first step towards defining the concept of the development of the new services. So, earlier also we have said that the generation of the ideas may be from two of the sources. Either way we tap in for the internal one, or we may go in for the external sources. The internal sources, they were primarily being constituted as the sources that were existing in the organizational structure, being associated in terms of the hierarchical structure of the organization. As being said earlier that it is the duty of the top level of management, the people are holding out the topmost position, they are also being authorized to give certain ideas, and they are giving out the planning aspect, they are creating out the planning aspect. Similarly, the people who are being taken care of, or who are taking care of the execution of that particular planning process that has been undertaken by the top level, they are the operational people and they are also holding most of the information towards the generation of the new product ideas. So, we can have a primary source which are basically internal in nature, and we can have an external source that are basically external in nature and not within the control of your organization. We may go in for tapping out the external sources in the form of the taking out the information from the competitors, taking the information from the feedbacks that is being collected through the help of the surveys or the questionnaires from the customers, from the consumers. Even if the government agencies are also trying to help you out to give certain feedbacks, and those feedbacks are helping us out to generate or to help us out towards the generation of the new product development of the ideas. Now, moving on to the next, this is in the very first step that we have already talked of. Now, the second step, now moving the slide, it says the same thing, that is the idea generation is being obtained from the customers employing user innovation. The company may have their inbuilt R&D development department, the competitors are also there in the market environment, the focus groups are operating, the employees are there existing. It is the sales people, the trade shows, policy of the organization, they all are being set to help you out or to help the service providers towards garnering out a good pool of the information that will be helping us out towards the generation of the good ideas. Now, the formal idea generation techniques, it includes the attribute listing, force relationship, brainstorming, morphological analysis and the problem solving approach. We may either go in for the informal one or either tap in for relying on the formal sources, and these formal sources are either in the form of the discussion that is being done on the part of the employees, or we are creating a morphological analysis, or we may either go in for giving a certain kind of task or the problem to be solved by the employees or by the people who are working in the establishment, so that they may come out with a proper solution, and that particular solution will be helping us out towards the generation of the new ideas. Now, moving to the next slide, this says that this is all being related within a screening of the ideas. Now, the second step, that is the screening of the ideas. We know that the screening word, the word screening, it is all being associated with the pruning, the weeding out of the ideas that has already been generated in the first step. So, in the very first step, as we have collected a large pool of the information from the different kind of sources, and these sources were either the internal one or the external one. Now, the internal one are more authentic to rely upon as compared to the external sources, but the external sources are also information or a source of the category of the information which will be helping us out towards broadening out our horizons in terms of meeting out the expectations and the needs of the target audience. Because the external sources of information, they are being provided by the competitors or by the innovative agencies or by the resellers or by the government agencies. These are the informations that are truly be helping us out towards making out a good approach or making out a good platform to further develop our concept of the new services. So, this idea is screening. This is all being associated with an elimination of the unsound concepts prior to the devoting the resources to them. The screeners must ask at least 3 of the questions, and these questions are being talked of in the sense of, will the customer in the target market benefit from the product? Is it technically feasible to the manufacture the product? Or the last question is, will the product be profitable when it is being manufactured and delivered to the customer at the target price? Now, as has already been said that the word screening, it's being related with the pruning or the weeding of the ideas. So, we are just trying to evaluate the ideas that has been garnered in the very first instance, in the very first step. That has to be evaluated, that has to be analyzed, and that evaluation analysis will be done keeping into consonance 3 of the parameters, or can also be, we can have other parameters also, keeping into consideration your resource availability, the commitment of the resources that you are holding on in your organization, the nature and the expectations of the target audience over whom you are trying to target out your effort, and the competitors analysis you have already done, and that has also to be taken into consideration. Your accessibility, your feasibility in terms of the marketing analysis, in terms of the technical feasibility, in terms of the financial constraint that you are holding on. So, we are asking 3 of the questions, and these basic questions are being related in the sense of, will the customers in the target market benefit from the product? We as a service provider and a marketer, we have to just answer out our question in the sense of that whatever ideas that we have generated in the very first instance, those ideas will not be technically, all those ideas will not be technically feasible, or it will not be having a market capability to talk of. The marketing feasibility will also be not being very much being strong enough. So, in the second stage, we are trying to prune out, we are trying to weed out, and we are trying to select out the best one, keeping into consonance our feasibility, and those feasibility are being defined in the terms of the customers' expectation, what the customers and your consumers are expecting from you as a service provider. Whether you as a service provider, you will be able to meet out the demands and the expectations, and you will be able to fulfill out the aspirations and the temperaments of the people through the generation or through the creation of the new product services, or whether they will be able to they will be having out an imitative product which is already there in the market area. So, you have to just answer out these questions, that your product should be having out a commercial feasibility also. Technical feasibility is being demanded, it is being needed enough, and apart from the technical feasibility, the commercial feasibility should also be defined in terms of the meeting out the expectations of the target audience. The next one, the question is technical feasible to manufacture out the product. Definitely, for the purpose of manufacturing and developing a new concept and manufacturing a new product, it all demands out a large profound of the resources to be committed upon. And we know that every organization, they are having a limited resources at their disposal. Whether we are talking of in terms of the organization, every organization, they do have limited resources, and that limited resources are put into the alternative use. They are scarce in nature, they are put into the alternative use. Similarly, if we are talking in terms of the macro sense, every economy, every society and nation, they do have limited resources at their disposal, and they are also being put into the alternative use. So here, as a service provider, as an organization, we have to consider out the availability of the limited resources to be used in a very justified and a rational way. That justification is being said to be associated in terms of making an evaluation, making an analysis of the technical feasibility, in relation to the technical feasibility. Whether our resources that are being said to being coming in the arena of the 6 M's, that is men, machine, material, money, method, market, whether our resources are having out a greater capability to be used in other equally good sense, or whether the idea that we have generated and that we are trying to select upon, it is having out a good technical feasibility to move in the other next step. So that has to be a prudent financial manager and a prudent service provider should be evaluating all these aspects, not only in terms of the managerial capacity, but they should also be evaluating in terms of the technical capability also. Because we know that at each and every sense, the technological changes are happening, and every marketer, every organization, they do have to play a profound role towards creation and the generation of a new innovative product. Now, why there is a need of the creation and the generation of a new innovative product? We know that every company, every establishment or the unit or the service provider, they are surviving in this competitive scenario. We have to face the direct challenges from our direct competitors who are directly being engaged in the same line of business arena. Similarly, indirect competition is also being faced by us, who are the competitors who are giving you an indirect challenge and indirect threat. They are not being related in the same line of business, but indirectly they are giving you a certain kind of challenge to you. So it is a duty for an agile and a versatile marketer to just sense it out and to just act in a proactive way, that whether we are crafting out our strategies, we are developing out our procedural plans as good as being said to have a competitive advantage and to be having a competitive advantage as compared to the competitors, and to be developing something new idea, something new and innovative idea that has not been earlier been existing there before. So this is the concept wherein you have to just make sure that the technological obsolescence should not be there. Whenever you are crafting and you are developing out the generation of the new product ideas, and you are trying to select out from that particular pool that whether this is technically feasible enough to go in for the next step, you have to ensure that the technological obsolescence should not be there. Because we know that the life cycle of the new services, they are very shorter as compared to the goods or the physical commodities. So here also we can be able to ensure that the things that we are channelizing, and we are just trying to like in the next subsequent step, we will be going for the concept development, we will be going for the business analysis, and we will be testing out in a selected market area. So if the service provider is trying to test out the concept of the generation of the new product, and they have before commercialization, they have trying to evaluate the response of the new product in a selected chosen market area that is being talked of as a market testing or test marketing. They have to ensure that that should be done in a very on a very limited kind of time frame, on a very limited time frame, because this duration of the time frame should be very much shorter in nature, because within that particular duration it may so happen that the competitors are trying to imitate your product, your ideas. So that should not happen. So here also technically feasible, that is the concept should be technically feasible, should not be able, the product or the ideas that we are trying to weed it out, that we are trying to select it out, should not be in a position wherein it is more being affected towards the technological obsolescence. And the third question is, it's all being related to whether the product will be profitable when it is being manufactured and delivered to the customer at the target price. We know that our effort, our 7 P's, that is the product, price, place and promotion, people, process and physical evidence. So the third P, that is the product price, the second P, that is price. We know that the price is a very sensitive element to talk of, and it is having another capability to generate out the resources, that is to generate out the revenue resources, and all the rest of the other elements which are being used and they are being crafted by the marketers, they are having out a capability to invest, or they are having out a certain kind of feature wherein the investment is being needed. We are making out the expenditure in terms of the cost. So acting in this competitive scenario, in this very challenging environment, we have to ensure that whatever prices that we are trying to float and we are trying to establish towards the formulation of the new product ideas, or the new product, not only ideas, the new product in fact. So that particular establishment of the new product, its prices are very much being sensible enough towards meeting out the expectations of the target audience, and whether it is having out a capability to be in consonance with the competitors' pricing strategy, because we are surviving in this competitive scenario. So we have to just take into consideration that not only the expectations and the aspirations of the target audience has to be met, but we have to provide a societal benefit to the masses at large. So this is what is being talked of as a holistic approach of the marketing. And definitely the competitors are there available in the market. So as a price sensitive customer, the customers may like it may so happen that the customers are trying to switch over their purchase process and their assimilation of the services towards a next best alternative which is there providing in the competitive scenario, which is there available in the competitive scenario. So here, as in a very agile, in a very versatile marketer, you have to establish out that whatever new ideas that you are trying to craft out, and you are trying to come out with new ideas, and you are trying to materialize into a new product generation, that is the generation of the new product, the new services, you have to just ensure that that should be in consonance with the expectations and the aspirations of the customers, and that too should be very much being reasonable and justifiable enough in terms of the prices. Now moving to the next slide. Here this slide shows the third step, that is the step of the concept development and testing. Now it is all being said that the concept development and testing either we can be related with different kind of questions, different kind of steps that has to be followed under the third step of the generation and the development of the new services, and this is being said as the development of the marketing and the engineering details. The very first question is, who is the target market and who is the decision maker in the purchasing process? The second question, what product features must the product incorporate? Now we will be just discussing the very first question, that is, who is the target market and who is the decision maker in the purchasing process. Now the concept development and testing, here we have to just evaluate that over whom we are targeting out our efforts, because earlier also we have said that it is not feasible for a service provider or a marketer to just satiate the divergent needs of the different heterogeneous group of people. So what the marketers are trying to do, they are trying to club out the heterogeneous group of people, the heterogeneous group of the customers or the consumers into some certain common grouping, and that common grouping is being said to be associated in terms of their purchase behavior. Either that common grouping may be defined in terms of their economic determinant, the demographic validation may be taken as a parameter to segment out the heterogeneous market area. The economic determinant can be taken as a parameter, either the product loyalty, the purchase process, the product benefits, any kind of parameter may be taken for the purpose of dividing out the heterogeneous market area and towards choosing out a selected common group of the people who are showing out their interest and who are having out your expectations from the product that you are trying to promote in the market area. So as in a marketer, as in a service provider, the very first step is to choose to identify the target audience over whom you are trying to target out your efforts in terms of the 7 P's. So, this is the very first question under the third step of the concept development and the market testing, that is the market over whom the target audience has to be chosen upon, or the target market has to be selected upon. And next one is who is the decision maker in the purchase process. We know that every buying decision, every purchase decision, it all comes into different kind of sequential process, into different kind of sequential steps, because it is not a one stop solution, it is not a one stop kind of activity. We know that practically, if we talk of that, like suppose you want to purchase certain kind of commodity which is a physical good. Now, definitely physical good commands a more involvement of the resources in terms of the prices, they have a more shelf life. But if we are discussing the consumption of the services or the consumption of the deeds or the ideas or the efforts which are basically intangible and perishable also, even then we as a consumer and a customer, we have to undergo different kind of process before moving in for the assimilation and the consumption of a selected specified service that is being provided by a specific service provider. Like the very first step is the need recognition. We know that firstly we have to identify out the need, because for the purpose of moving in for the purchase process or the buying process, we have to ensure that there should be a certain kind of need. We as a customer or we as a consumer, we have to just identify out the need, and need, we know that these are the basic essentialities that are being present, and these essentialities should be satiated, then only we will be having out a comfortable bent of mind. So, need are the basic essentialities and their deprivation should not be there, because we will be having a tensive state of mind whenever the need, the fulfillment of the need is not being met. So, this is the basic trigger, and we have already discussed the Abraham Maslow's need hierarchy, which says that the basic hierarchy, the basic needs and the basic physiological needs, they are being prominent and they are being same in case of each and every living being, whether the living being are humans or whether the living beings are the animals. But the way of the satisfaction and the way of the gratification and the satiation of the basic needs, they are being different as being compared to the human beings, as being compared to the animals. So, the basic needs has to be satiated, the needs for the food, cloth and other biological needs. So, here we are saying that the very first step under the purchase process is all being talked of in the form of the need recognition. As a consumer, as a customer, we have to firstly recognize out the need, that whether there is a need to go in for the purchase process, or whether there is really a deprivative state of mind that is prevailing in our personality, that is prevailing in our lifestyle, which is creating a tensive state, and without the consumption, without the fulfillment of that particular kind of trigger, we are not very much being comfortable enough in our lifestyle. So, this is what is being talked of as a basic essentiality, the basic recognition of the need. Similarly, the second one is the need recognition. After the need recognition, we have to go in for the information search. So, under the purchase process, the second step is the information search. Here also, the information search is all being associated in terms of tapping on, in terms of gathering out the good pool of the information that will be helping us out to move in for the effective purchase process. Now, the same thing, the information search may be done either with the help of relying on the internal way, we can go in for the external way to tap in for the good pool of the information. The internal source of information will be the sources over whom you are relying, like your family and friends, the family structure, the people who are living in your family structure, they are helping you out to make you an informed decisions. Similarly, they are the friends and the social groups are there in the environment, and they are helping you out to make an informed decision. So, the internal sources can also be tapped upon. Similarly, the external sources in the form of the advertisement, the print medias are there, the digital contents are there, the competitors are helping you out, the different stakeholders that are there in the marketing environment, they are also helping you out to garner and to just tap in for a good pool of information. So, after the idea, that is after the need recognition, the second step under the purchase process or under the buying process is all being associated with an information search. The third is being talked of in the sense of the evaluation of the alternatives. So, in the buying process, the third step is the evaluation of the alternatives. Here also we are saying that the evaluation of the alternatives, the word evaluation is being said to be defined in the way of making certain analysis. It is being defined in the way of making certain kind of appraisal, and that appraisal are being done when we are having a different kind of venues to go in for. Because in the second step we have generated the ideas from the different sources. So, that particular ideas, it is not feasible enough to go in for the feasibility of each and every idea. We will be trying to evaluate in the third step, that is the evaluation of alternatives. We will be evaluating the different set of options that we have generated in the second step, that is the information search. We will be just evaluating those ideas in terms of our feasibility, and that feasibility is being defined in the sense of our time factor, in the sense of the cost factor, the psychological benefits, and the price factor. Very important is the monetary considerations. We know that every price sensitive customer, they evaluate in purchase of a particular product on the basis of the cost factor that is being defined in the price one, and similarly the quality is also being evaluated. So, the evaluation of alternatives, all those different set of benefits, all those different set of deeds and associations that we are having out in the competitive scenario, we will be trying to evaluate those benefits and the associations which are very much being perishable, which are very much being invariable, which are very much being inconsistent and intangible. We will be just trying to evaluate in terms of our expectations, in terms of our meeting out our expectations and the aspirations, and those analysis will be quantified and it will be evaluated in the sense of the price factor, the time that we are devoting towards the consumption of the services, the efforts that we are making towards the assimilation and towards the towards assimilating that particular kind of enriching experience or the enriching benefits. Similarly, the psychological benefits that we are expecting it and the rest of the other factors that has also been taken into consideration. So, this is in a third step under the buying process. After the third step, we will move on to the purchase process, So, under the purchase decision or under the buying decision, the third step is the purchase process. Now, the purchase process in case of the services will be the consumption of the services, and the consumption of the services either after the purchase of the services we will be consuming, because we know that the production and the consumption in case of the services, they are happening simultaneously. We are not being able to store it for a later point of action. Whenever the production of the services that are being done in the environment, it is very much being necessary enough that the consumers or the customers should be there immediately. The spontaneous production and the consumption has to be taken care of. It cannot be inventorized. So, here when the purchase process is being met, the consumers has to take into consideration that after the purchase process and the assimilation and the consumption of the services, which may be in any of the form, like which may be in the form of the deeds or the associations or the benefits or any kind of experiences or any kind of deeds which are basically intangible in nature, you have to ensure that whether the actual performance of the product which is basically intangible, the actual performance of the product is in association with your expectations, or that are in equivalence with your expectations, or whether the actual performance of the product is not meeting up to your expectations. So, with the purchase process and with the consumption of the services, in the fourth step you will be able to evaluate the benefits and the cost that you have made in terms of paying out the price, the efforts that you have devoted, the efforts in terms of the talent, treasure and time, that has to be evaluated and that has to be taken into account. Now, if your actual performance of the product is up to the expectations, definitely you will be satiated, you will be satisfied, you will be having a feeling of delightment when the actual performance is more than your expectations. Similarly, when the actual performance of the product after the purchase and the consumption is less than your expectations, you will be having a feeling of dissatisfaction or the dissonance. So, in the terms of the marketing discipline, we are defining the dissatisfaction as the marketing dissonance, that is a cognitive dissonance. So, that cognitive dissonance should not happen. Now, this is in the fourth step under the purchase process. The last step is all being related with post-purchase evaluation. In case of the services also, whenever we are moving in for the buying process or the purchase process, the last step is being related in terms of the post purchase process, and the post purchase process means here we have to ensure that whatever benefits that we are getting for the purpose of enriching or for the purpose of creating an enriching experience, enriching kind of environment that the service providers are trying to make and they are trying to deliver you out, whether that enriching experience are able enough, and they are apart from that enriching experience, they are giving you certain kind of other add-ons that are having a capability to be defined in terms of the post purchase process. And the post purchase process is all being related in terms of your repetitive purchase process. So, earlier also in the fourth step we have said that if you as a consumer and a customer, you have enriched out, you have felt out an experience of the delightment, definitely in the last fifth step, that is the post purchase process, you will be able to take out an informed decision and the repetitive purchase process will happen. So, that is all being talked of as a reinforcement process. So, positive reinforcement will be there if you are having a feeling of delightment, and negative reinforcement will be there. Negative means you will not be able to buy the same product, or you will not be able to consume the same services again and again if you are having a feeling of the cognitive dissonance, that is the frustration, your actual performance of the product was not up to the expectations that you have hold on your mind after the purchase and the consumption of that particular product. So, this is all being talked of as the steps of the buying process. This is being talked of as a step. Now, under the concept development and testing, we are having the different kind of steps that are also and that different kind of questions that has also to be considered upon. In this particular session, we will be dealing and we have dealt with idea generation, we have dealt with different kind of how to prune out the different kind of ideas, taking into consideration the different kind of accessibilities and the parameters like economic feasibility, technical feasibility, managerial capability, and the third step we were discussing about the concept development and testing. So, in the next discourse also we will be dealing with the same point of action. Till then, stay safe and stay blessed. In the next discourse, we will be continuing with the concept development and testing. Thank you all.